You're looking to, of course, then we lose them.
Maybe
We're at 6:30. I'll call to order the November 18th, 2024 City of Lake Elmo Parks Commission meeting. First order of business is to state the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Next order of business is to approve tonight's agenda. Look that over, and if someone wants to make a motion.
I move that we accept the agenda.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any nays? No nays. That passes. We have an agenda, and then we will move to the item of approving minutes from October 21st, 2024. If we could take a minute to look those over and offer any corrections or clarifications. If there aren't any, could also take a motion on that to approve those minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
We have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye. Any nays? No nays. That passes. And we're to public comment. And looks like we have one individual here. Were you looking to make public comment general, or did you want to wait?
I was going to wait.
Okay, sounds great. We will close public comment then and move to the Limerick Village Concept Plan.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So tonight, the commission will have its second review of the Limerick development. The applicant is Maplewood Development Incorporated. The property is currently zoned rural transitional and guided in the city's comprehensive plan as medium-density residential and high-density residential. The property is just over 78 acres, and the proposal before you tonight has roughly 679 units between apartments, townhomes, and single-family detached dwellings. The Parks Commission reviewed this request at their February meeting. The applicant was originally proposing a 2.42 acre park, and the commission requested a park closer to the 10-acre land dedication requirement. As a reminder, park dedication can be satisfied in three ways. The first is fee in lieu of land. In this case, it would be a little over $500,000. 10% land value, or 10% land area, which is 7.8 acres, or a combination of both of those. And then the city can grant trail credit not to exceed 25% for trails that meet the requirements. And then I have a schematic of the revised proposal for you. So the applicant is proposing a park in generally the same location as the prior proposal, so roughly in the center of the site next to the large stormwater pond. That is shown with the blue star, and that is 8.02 acres. And with this proposal, the applicant is also proposing two private parks shown with the purple stars. And the total acreage of that is roughly 1.1 acres. The city's comprehensive plan identifies the property to be fully within a neighborhood park search area. City staff identified that this quadrant of the city is lacking park amenities within walking distance. And then again, the developer's proposing an 8-acre outlot for a park with off-street parking and two private parcel areas for parks. The plan identifies the property to be within a city trail search corridor along 5th Street. And the plan also identifies the property to be within a road-separated trail along Manning Avenue and then Hudson Boulevard, which will be realigned as part of this project. And again, this quadrant of the city is lacking trail amenities. So then staff has a recommendation here before you to accept that 8 acres of land, trail credit where applicable, and then if there's any remaining park dedication due, that would be received through fee. And the applicant is here before you tonight if you have any questions for them. I also have a slide for the prior proposal in case that comes up in discussion.
Thank you. Do you have any questions or comment for our city staff? I guess my question is relating to just the outline of the public park. I see that north portion is clearly public park, but where does this, I don't know, do you have a laser pointer we can outline how this would add up being 8 acres? Yeah, I guess
Here we go.
Sweet.
So this area here,
Okay,
obviously around the north,
okay.
and then a trail or sidewalk pathway around the ponds, but it's not including the ponds
Okay.
themselves.
That was
The
my,
pond is 7.38.
gotcha. So what is to the, I guess, left of the pond, to the west of the pond, is that also drainage? Is that,
I believe it's an infiltration basin.
okay. All right, so it has nothing to do with the park.
Correct.
Great, thank you. That was, and just for scale, is that, I guess those are soccer fields, with that?
Correct, just shown to how it could be programmed.
Okay, thank you. Other questions for city staff?
So is that a building on the right side of the stormwater?
Right here.
Yeah.
I'll defer to the applicant on exactly what it is. I think it's for maintenance of the stormwater pond and infiltration
Okay.
basin.
And the ones below?
These,
Yeah,
I think those are tennis courts.
okay. But that's all part of the park, the whole thing, green space there? That area's not marked, is my question. Right above where you're at.
Right here.
Yeah,
That is park.
all that. would be
However,
park.
the city wants to program this.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay, all right, so that's where you got the 8 acres.
Can I ask one more question, Sophia? And in the second map that the commissioners were sent, it looks like the public park acreage also includes like an outline of the infiltration pond and the stormwater pond, presumably for use with trails.
Correct.
If the city programs it that way. Okay.
Do you know how big the parking lot would be? Is that something that's decided at this time, or is that
That
the
is
city
this-
decides at a later
later.
time? Okay.
Correct.
Do any of the commissioners feel the need to have the developer come up to speak, or are we satisfied with what we have?
I have a general comment, and is that I appreciate the extra detail in the work that was presented this time for the developer.
Well, if we don't have further discussion, or actually clarification questions for the staff, we could have discussion before we took a motion, or we could make a motion and further discuss however we want to proceed. I don't know if somebody has a,
I'll make the motion.
okay.
Move to recommend the acceptance of approximately 8 acres of land for a neighborhood park with dedication credit for the trails along the soon-to-be planned Fifth Street, and in a fee in lieu of dedication for the remainder of, on the findings listed in the staff report.
We have a second.
I'll second.
All right, we have a second. Discussion on this motion?
Well, as we talked about before, this part of the city needs a park. Like I said, I appreciate the extra work that was done by the developer to figure this out. Even though they didn't think they could do it, it looks like a good plan. So I generally support it because of mainly the need in that area to have a park.
I do as well. I appreciate obviously adding the 6 acres, makes it substantially more palatable. And it's also it looks to me in a way that's going to be usable for the folks that live here, not kind of tucked away in an afterthought, which sometimes kind of seems like happens. So I really appreciate that. I look forward to it.
Yeah, I'd have to agree. I like the setup, and it's available to not only the neighborhood, but for other people, also other residents.
I agree with it all. I know it wasn't necessarily the easiest ask that we've sent you back with, but I appreciate the work.
If we have no more discussion, I can call the question. The motion is to recommend the acceptance of approximately 8 acres of land for a neighborhood park with a park dedication credit for trails along Fifth Street and a fee in lieu of dedication for the remainder based on the findings listed in the staff report. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? There are no nays. That passes unanimously. Thank you.
It's another comma.
Yeah. Almost got me there. Next item of business is the 2025 Parks Works Plan, which is something we tabled from last meeting and bringing back to the forefront.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, as the commissioner noted, we presented the Parks Strategic Work Plan at our last meeting. We tabled that for discussion to just change a few things before we review that with the city council in that January work session group. So those changes I highlighted in red and indicate in your packet as well. One of the changes was to explore trail connectivity options to Sunfish Lake Park. I put that under outline park options with that new development as well. So that was included in there as we move forward in the next year. Also changed our wayfinding option that was brought up by one of the commissioners. So outline some options for park signage as well as wayfinding with an option of 2. Outline the needs for a park superintendent staffing following the 2024 Parks Master Plan. We had a little bit of longer discussion on that, if you remember, just as on that purpose of following that Parks Master Plan that we put all that effort into, just following those recommendations in general. One other item on there was to kind of work with city council to create more of a plan, and we'll plan to do that in that January meeting as well. The last thing that was changed was the tree planting, park tree planting. We upgraded that from a 4 to a 2 on that. So those changes being made. Looking for a motion to proceed that to city council.
Thank you. Have any questions for staff on Park Works Plan?
I don't have any questions.
Okay. Well, does somebody want to make a motion? Are we gonna just hammer this home real quick?
Yeah, sure. I'll make a motion to recommend the 2025 Parks Commission Work Plan to City Council.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. We have a second and discussion on this.
Well, we did the majority of the discussion last time.
Yeah,
you know.
I know, it feels,
So I appreciate you going back, and I appreciate you following up on the shelters for me. That's 2026 starts. So
Correct.
Appreciate that. Looks like he incorporated what we wanted to.
yeah.
Yeah, thanks for
We've got-
doing that.
Yeah, I guess my only comment is that I really like the process of having 2 rounds and being able to have some discussion before we feel like we're having to,
Yeah, because this is clear, you know, when you have all those comments, and we're trying to keep track of them all and all that kind of stuff. So I agree with the chair, as this is a good approach.
and it looks like a good work plan. We'll see what council has to say about it. I'll call the question. The motion is to recommend the 2025 Park Commission work plan to city council. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? No nays? That passes unanimously. And we're on to Shilkin Park construction.
Thank you. So, several months ago, we brought in front of the Parks Commission the new, at that time, North Star Park, but now since we've named that the Shilkin Park. We are looking to construct that park with the use of some trails as well as benches and some signage for that park. As we know that we are limited on what can be done in that park as far as the process of what we can do with that 29 acres, but staff, since our last meeting, has went out and kind of drawn a concept plan and GPS some trails, and is looking for your input as far as the construction of those as well. So, again, with that, again, this park is nearly 30 acres, it's 29.9 acres, along with some park dedication funds that were received with this North Star development. We're looking to recommend to City Council the following construction items, which include the trails, the benches, the signage, as well as some picnic tables that we plan to put in there as well. So construction of that trails, we're looking at nearly a mile and a half. It's almost a little bit closer to 2 miles in general. Again, these trails are going to be just nature trails, be mowed approximately 2 times per month. Some of this areas in there is very steep, and so the trail does go along the backside of these properties. There will be, just kind of dependent on the developer and the new homeowners of those properties, that trail will likely be visible from those homeowners, or maybe be guided by some trees as well that might be in the backyards of those homes. So just be aware of that trail that's going to be along the top ridge there, that we are limited on space from the back of the property line to the crest of that hill. That's going to have some major slope there. Because of that slope, there isn't no trails that we're proposing down, that main corridor, or I guess that top line. There isn't nothing going down the middle of that just because of how steep that is. We do go along the outer ridges of that. It will wind back and forth when we do have to go down the hill on either end, the north or south end. So, but otherwise, along Stillwater Boulevard, that trail will be just a nature trail. Future potential of that would be asphalt with the combination with the county, working with that, with Connor, with their surveying groups as well, to make that as part of that larger gateway trail through there, maybe in the future. But again, right now, that would be a combination of just a nature trail along Stillwater Boulevard that would connect into North Star's asphalt trail on the far east side of that development. Construction of this trail would include park benches, so we'll have approximately 3, potentially up to 4 park benches if we feel we need another one. One, the star closest or up near the homes, would be approximately near the entrance, or one of the entrances to the park, just to have a great view over that hill, down to the lower portion of the water on that end. The one on the far south would look towards Stillwater Boulevard over our stormwater pond, just a kind of another relaxing area. There's not a whole lot going on there, but just kind of a large open area that we thought would be very visible, just as an open area, again, on that south end. Inside the park, we proposing one at the very tip or the circle end there on the south. Again, that would open up widely to the whole lake. Again, there is some slight trees in there that we wouldn't mow down or we'd leave as nature. So, and it will be restricted a little bit there, but will be a great asset to that as well there. Signage, we are looking at 2 locations. One, our park sign, we're looking at the one location. That would be in the development, in between the 2 properties. That is our one access in there. We're looking to put the park sign up there. As far as picnic tables, we're proposing 2. One on the north end. That area's been proposed. While walking through there, it's just a lot of buckthorn in that area. There's no big trees, more invasive trees in that area than anything. So looking at maybe clearing out a smaller area, maybe about the size of what you see in front of us here, and just to set a table in there, just kind of a nature area that you can still see down to the lake a little bit. It'll be covered with a little bit of trees, but as well as seeing over to that other trail further to the east. The one to the south would be near our bench area there again. Again, an area that there's kind of a little crest of a hill there with some large oak trees. So we're looking to have a lot of canopy there, as well as putting with that bench and that table there, just kind of an open area to view to the south as well as the west back to the lake. Just kind of a really nice area once we clear a lot of the buckthorn and the brush that's in that area. So. The final 2 things we're looking at is just kind of a kiosk area, just to keep users aware of where the trails are. And we're looking at 2 entrance points to the park for those kiosks. And again, our kiosk areas are just very similar to the signs that we'd have at DeMontreville. We have at Reed Park as well as Sunfish Lake. Just an area map of what our trails are and where potential landmarks are as well. The next picture here again just shows that trail in red, but just if you kind of view the backside of those properties, again, we just want to make the commission aware that this trail will be on the backside of those properties. So, and again, it's a nature trail. It's not going to be asphalt trail or anything like that. Again, you can see there are trees in the back yards there. Not sure if those are proposed by the developer or just a suggestion from the developer to the new homeowner of potential trees in that area. So trees along the stormwater pond are being proposed by the developer and are likely part of that landscape plan that they do need to follow. So we will have that border from that trail to that stormwater pond with those. So again, just another picture of that one and the next one of where that trail will lie on based on the backside of those properties. From this picture again, you can see that the entrance to that park will be directly off of one of the main streets at the T intersection where we plan to put that park entrance sign. With that, I'll take any questions regarding the construction of the new Shilkins Park.
Adam, could you go back to the previous drawing, the first one, with the red outline? Yes,
Red
that
outline?
one. Yeah. So this is Stillwater Road?
Yep, on the
bottom?
south side, yep.
Okay. So is the barn there?
In this
Is it right?
proposal, I don't know if you can see my arrow on that. Let me grab my marker.
Yeah,
So this is the barn area. This is an
Okay.
old concept plan where they had like a pool house and things like this,
Yeah,
but this
okay.
would be that barn area, where the barn currently is.
Okay, thank you. I was just trying to get my bearings.
Question for you, Adam. Is there going to be parking in the development or the option for parking on the road for people visiting the park?
So right now, there is no parking associated with this park. The land dedication that was given was land only.
Okay.
So I don't have a picture of that side of the development, but on the north side of the development, there is an area where there is no proposed houses being built, which is the next future access to the park. There may be potential of roadside parking there, but not an extreme amount.
Okay. Would you consider maybe adding like some bike racks or something like that to provide a way for people a little bit further to access the park?
That's a potential. It wouldn't be any more further construction than a regular bench, right?
Oh, sure.
Proposal to that would be near the entrances, either the north side or the main entrance or the south side of that, for something like that.
Okay, thanks.
So looking at the picture, well, actually, before I get into that, do we envision, is this a community park or is this a neighborhood park? Do we know?
It's gonna be more, I think we're gonna have to categorize it more as nature park, because a
Okay.
neighborhood park, again, would be including pavilions and extracurricular activities outside of that. This one, we wouldn't be able to construct any of that,
Right.
so.
I forgot that is what we have for our classifications now with is a nature or
Nature, yep.
natural. Okay.
Yep, natural resource, correct.
Okay, so then, I guess, back to the parking question. Right at this visual we're looking at now, that drainage pond is, and where that trail goes on the east side of it, is there any possibility of getting parking, even if it's 3 or 4 or 5 spots? I think they would have to come in, we'd have to figure out how to use, or get easement access for the barn, where people are gonna come in to use the barn. But I'm wondering if there is city-owned land where we could have some parking spots there.
So there is no city, so city owns the stormwater pond, but this is all owned by the development.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So,
But yeah,
there is
just-
no access off of Stillwater Boulevard into this property.
Oh, there isn't?
Right now, nope. So any potential
Okay.
future parking by the developer would be next to that barn and would have to be some
I-
type of,
I was under the impression there was drive into that barn area, so I guess maybe that's just what they're doing now, and I
yep, they're using that as an access.
assumed that, okay. Okay, well then I'm back with Ellen on the at least parking racks maybe down there. I do, I'm impressed that you'd be able to put that much trail in there just because of the kind of the steepness of it, so that's great.
Yeah, the future owner of the property did do some maintenance and did do some mowing down through there before. And so some of those trails are a little bit more identified history, like they did mow down through here and access into here and mowed some of this lower ground, maybe for some agricultural round bales or something, I'm not sure, or just to clean it up. But some of the stuff was previously mowed, as well as an access trail down into here as well. So, like I said, some of those things were previously there, and it's just gonna take we will use it's called a fecon mower, it's a mulching mower that'll grind up, similar to what they're doing at Sunfish Lake to make the trails and take care of buckthorn there. We will be utilizing one of those to make these trails just because of the substance that's in there, the invasive trees as well as that buckthorn, so.
Go ahead, you're still going. You're still-
It looks like on that north point, there's a line going into that. Is that where you're referencing where they haven't built yet and there'll be a second access point?
Correct.
You anticipate?
He's referencing this north section right here. If you look at the orange line, outline there.
Yeah.
That will be like the very edge of a street. There will be a trail, actually a sidewalk up on top there. So future potential, we could put a bench up there, to overlook this whole valley here, but that will be a second potential entrance into that park. But
Okay.
it'll likely have to zigzag up because it will be a steep.
If I could jump in right here, right now.
Yeah.
So I walked this entire park over the weekend, and that area that's north of the park. The developer has it where they've gone through and made, where they think they're gonna put like the streets, and it looks like a circle back in there. So my question, and it might be more for planning, is that acreage of development included in the amount of acreage that we got for the park?
They paid park dedication for both additions.
For both additions?
Correct.
Okay, that's
That's-
good. The other little thing to note is at the end of that street that runs along the park there, it just shows it ending. Well, they didn't do that. They put a circle in there, a fairly large circle's been paved in there. Plenty of room for parking, in other words. Now, that might go away when they do the rest of the development, but for right now, it's a fairly large circle that's right there at that end. That's where I park.
Yeah, so it's a common occurrence in new developments, especially when they have phases of developments, when they go first phase, second phase, third phase, things like that, is they'll end streets like that. And a lot of times that's for maintenance or for turnaround for construction as well. So otherwise, if they cut it off and they leave it, gravel or sand or whatever, everybody thinks it's a trail. They get stuck, they get,
Yeah.
But that's where all of our utilities end as well, so.
Yeah, and you guys have walked these, my concern again is that slope. Again, I did not go exactly where this was going, so they believe they don't need stairs or anything like that. They can find an access point.
Yeah, our biggest areas will be this south end here.
Right.
Again, this will have to probably zigzag back and forth several times to get back up to our trail. As well as, this is fairly flat here, but that future development and that area out, just depending on how this all gets laid out up here, we'll likely have to zigzag back and forth to get back out of there as well.
Yeah, although it's one of those, you could be Daniel Boone and find potentially the right way to get up there, but, okay. Then if we connected to the west to Sunfish Lake, I know that hasn't been looked at, that would be on that little loop where the picnic table is, right?
Yeah, that came up in discussion through our 25-25 work plan, is maybe look at some potential options of connecting that to Sunfish Lake. If that would occur, it would potentially be through this corner lot here. We have a potential trail coming in from the north here. While all this ties together, it could potentially go through the backside of there as well.
And the last thing is, it's even better than I thought. I thought there wasn't gonna be any room, and there's a lot of nice trees. I could see all the wonderful things for our invasive species work. There's a lot of buckthorn out there. But it is a very nice addition to the park system, in my belief. That's all I got.
Adam, it looks like on the west side here that two trails go down to the lake.
Yeah. So, we are incorporating those in there. Again, there's no trees that will be removed, in doing so. If anything, they're invasive trees. And we're just looking for just a little outlet down to the lake. That lake's gonna rise and lower really quickly. It's gonna depend on the day. So they're just gonna be quick, short little avenues down there to have a good look, good access to, or good view of the lake. So likely, what looks like a long route right there is probably less than 25, 30 feet.
Okay.
So we're not very far off the high level of the water from the trail. And so those stubs off the trail are just dependent on water height, right? So.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions, comments?
I do
Yep.
have one more question. And maybe I can ask you when you come up to speak also. People are aware of this and they're parking along that street in front of those residences. Do you get complaints about people who, like yesterday I was at Homestead Park and the streets are narrow and I assume they're not going to be much wider here than they are over by the Homestead Park. Do you get complaints from Because it's a beautiful park. I assume there's going to be a lot of people hiking there once the
I
word
would hope
gets
so,
out.
yeah, I would hope so.
Is that an issue at all?
It comes and goes, just really dependent on, amenities and, use of the park, right? So, of course, Pebble Park, we add a lot of things to it. What's the first thing we talk about is, next thing the park, work plan is parking, right? So it all comes of like the use of the parks, what's there, what's being used, what's been upgraded, things like that. So, I would probably agree, like, it will be a new fad, people will be interested in seeing it right away and things like that. I'm not sure, there'll probably be one side, no parking on that street, just because of, policy and how, things have gone already. But, so likely parking will only be allowed on one side of the street in that area. So, I'm sure we will hear from it, so,
Okay,
yep.
thank you.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that's gonna be a concern. The way those houses sit, I'm just thinking of it, the driveways are fairly close together as far as like the distance between them. You get one car, 2 cars between them. That's why, one of the reasons I was asking about that south end, but if people just have to park nicely. Guess that's my
I
comment.
guess I have one other comment. Adam, thanks for bringing up the fact that the trail is close to the back of those houses. I feel like when I see that, it doesn't strike me as out of the ordinary. I feel like there's a lot of places where like Elmo has done something similar, like Easton Village, North Park. It's too bad Commissioner Elam's not here because the trail's right there, So, thanks for pointing that out, but I guess I don't have any major concerns with that.
Yeah, and we have, I just bring it up because it is gonna be in the backyards, and we do have trails in the other backyards as far as, look at Stonegate Park when we did those. It was a park, trails that weren't used for a long time, and then when we did upgrade them, we did have a lot of conversation about, with the homeowners next door about, upgrading those and them being in their backyards and the use of them. So, yeah, it's just kind of more preventative of letting everybody know that it's gonna be there.
The other thing is that access road to the north is complete. So you can go into the other subdivision that's just north of there. That's all complete too.
So he is referencing this road,
Right there.
right here, yep. This does connect into 39th Trail.
Whatever that is, that's North Star?
That is Legacy at North.
Legacy.
Okay, well. We can take a motion.
I move to recommend to the city council the proposed trail and purchase by city staff to furnish the newly constructed Shulkin Park.
We have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second, so discussion on this motion. I'll just say I'm glad to see, I thought we were done with this for the year, as far as the conversation on it. But I'm glad to see it back on the agenda and the plan. Again, I was excited to see the amount of trails that we think can go in there, and I'm with Hank, that it's a unique little slice that overlooks the lake, and I think it'll be a good addition to the park system, so I generally like this plan. Sans save the parking situation, but that is what it is. Any other discussion? Should I call the question for the recommendation to city council, the proposed trail and purchases by city staff to furnish the newly constructed park is the motion. All those in favor? Aye. Any nays? No nays? That passes unanimously. We're on to Homestead Park. Next agenda item.
Okay, thank you. As we continue to review our parks, we're going a little different avenue as far as the parks that we have done in the past. But again, one of the major things that we do when we review these parks is just, again, to become familiar with the parks that we have, but also just to bring up those discussions of, you know, what do these parks need? What is our future maintenance with them? What do we gotta put in our CIP or our work plan in the future, if anything, or just to become more comfortable or more knowledgeable of what we have available for parks as well. So Homestead Park, this is about 2.5, a little over 2.5 acres, next to Homestead HOA. This park is set up as far as our parks master plan, a nature reserve park. Again, mainly consisting of a pollination park, as well as in 2023, we added a sign to the park just to indicate that it was Homestead Park. So this park was approved and developed in 1997. At the time, council approved the resolution to place the outlets of the subdivision into a conservation easement with a trust. That changed in 2015, or that stayed until 2015, when the city adopted a bee-friendly or a pollination friendly resolution. So at that time, the HOA came forward and presented a plan to city council as well as the Parks Commission to make this a pollination-friendly outlot or park. At that time, the city granted to the HOA about $25,000 for seeding and maintenance of that park. So we've asked the commissioners to take if they had time, to take a quick walk of that area just to become more familiar with it. Staff isn't recommending any changes or future upgrades to this park. If anything, maybe some, if anything, additional to the pollination, or different seedings or something like that, just to increase the pollination to keep that nature park going. So with that, I open that up for. I will show a couple more slides here as far as this comes from our Parks Master Plan. Just the proposed trails, or not proposed, the trails that are there that do go into outlots C and A that the HOA maintains throughout that park. So again, the city's land is outlined in black there only. The rest of that is private. Again, last year installed this sign, part of a conservation easement, and the amount of money that was granted back in 10 years ago. With that, I'll open it up for discussion or any questions you might have.
Just to clarify with that, can you go back to the last, just the picture of the sign there?
Yep.
So is this sign actually on HOA?
No, this is directly right on the corner right off Lake Elmo Ave on the city park. So it's, grab a laser here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the
So
orientation.
it's, it's
The
right
old-
in
the
this
old
area right here.
orientation. Yeah, okay. I apologize. I was confused.
But you could put a shelter there, right?
Could not.
Could not. So people have to stand out in the,
So, at the current time, we could not unless there's agreement between the trust, the owners, which would be the developer and the city. So, a lot would have to go into place in order to make something like that happen.
it's not pickleball.
So, I guess what I'd like to do is, Adam, if you would be able to, we probably have additional questions for you, but I'm wondering if we can take public comment now. I know we have somebody here to speak on this. I'd like to hear. You waited patiently.
Thank you so much.
If
Good
you
evening,
could, just
everyone.
state your name and your address.
My
and-
name is Eloise Mackey, and
Okay.
I live at 11364 14th Street North. That's in the Homestead neighborhood.
Okay, thank you.
That neighborhood is quite small. It's 18 homes, and the HOA, as noted, has this Outlot C adjacent to the park. We also have another open space area that we turned into a pollinator prairie. This isn't it's a prairie. And that's kind of on the other side of our street, which is also owned by the HOA. So I just had sort of a comment or looking for some direction from the commission. There are a number of areas because it's a connected ecosystem that reasons we have to cooperate to maintain it. I mean, one is burns. We're due for a burn this year, and we'd like to go ahead with that, but we have to coordinate with the city somehow. Also, we've found a need to do spraying and invasive removal, even though it's been an established area for a number of years. We have had problems, some disturbances in the terrain that's brought in invasives or just invasives coming in that needed to be removed. So that has to be done on both parcels. Also the kind of the volunteer saplings like buckthorn, we have honey locust seeding in there, we have box elder, sometimes maples, and a lot of Siberian elm, particularly on our side, but also increasingly on the park side. So I had quite a few discussions initially with Marty Powers and Public Works about how do we do this. I understand there are things we can just volunteer to do, and we're willing to do some of that, but not all of it, because it's costly, and some things I don't think really we can take full responsibility for. For example, the burn. We can't really give anyone approval to do a burn on the city park. So we need some, I think, ways or a plan that we can agree to, at least on a few fundamental things to keep the area robust and to preserve the nature of the area going forward, where we understand and know what we can expect the city to do, in the way of cooperation, not just us volunteering to do things and then waiting to see if those things are acceptable. So that's what I'm here to kind of present, is our desire from the HOA to understand that better so we can plan so it doesn't just turn into a buckthorn field ultimately. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that. And I guess I'll just quickly state that working with city staff on this is definitely the direct route, and I realize it's sometimes slower or a little bit nuanced as far as getting this done. This is a unique circumstance. Well, it's actually not entirely unique, but having the HOA and city lots next to each other, it does present some challenges, so I appreciate your input.
Yeah, but one of the areas that you're gonna get run into is there are other developments in the city, like Wildflower, who has a very large
Right.
nature area. And they would be more than excited to hear that we were supporting this nature area, because they would come on knocking on your door looking for support for burns and same things. So, just gotta keep that in mind.
Yeah. So no, just with conservation easements, I just want the commission to understand that each one's a little bit different, and some of those things are really laid out in that easement, or what's signed by all parties. Because like Hank had mentioned, our contributions to the Wildflower one is a lot different than our contributions to Homestead, and Homestead's different from what we have from Sunfish Lake Park as
And
well
there's
as
Ridge, too.
Ridge Park, right? So each one has their own, descriptions and possibilities and things like that. So just keep those in mind, and that's why we have these discussions. It's only been, since 2015, it's only been 10 years, but with a brand-new Parks Commission and new members and people leaving and things like that, it's always good as a reference to bring these things back so things don't get lost either.
I guess I'll ask you directly, Adam, what's your impression on feasibility of a path, what we're looking at right now, of incorporating a path on
Yes.
that site?
So right now, there is a mowed path in there that's done by the HOA, so the HOA is responsible for maintenance of that outlot as part of that agreement, so they do mow that. In the last year, that wasn't mowed fully all the way around, maybe initially out of the gate, but there's no requirements of how many times it has to be mowed, or the desire of mowing, things like that. So in the past, it has been mowed on the city side to incorporate into those other parcel to the south.
So there is a mowed path on the city staff, or a city lot?
Yep.
Okay.
So the brown areas was a mowed path from the arrows down, straight through, and then around the top as well.
Yes, if,
The HOA is not paid to mow that path.
Nope.
One of the landowners in the neighborhood took the initiative. He's paid to mow that path. I did tell him he should coordinate with the city and get permission. I don't know if he did that or not, but he started to mow that. When we had it, before the sign went up, we mowed those paths. When the sign went up, we stopped mowing the paths on the park, and we continue to just do the ones on Outlot C. But now this gentleman is paid, he's connected them, and I have no idea if he's actually got approval to do that or not. But now it does look just like you're showing there.
So a hypothetical, let's say there's a bunch of third graders at the new school at the corner that's studying prairies. Would they be allowed to hike all these trails, both the city land and the HOA land? Or would
So-
they be restricted to the city land?
It'd be restricted to the city land, as the ones to the south are private.
Thank you. Just as a note for like Wildflower, the trails there are city trails. So it goes back to what Adam's talking about. They're all a little different. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this spot is, in particular, to Hank's point, it becomes really difficult. You wouldn't put a sign up in the middle of that field to say, don't go any further, this is a HOA. And it is such a small lot that it doesn't, you wouldn't presumably come to just do a circle around that. If you live in the neighborhood, absolutely, yeah. I guess what I'm articulating is I'm not super in favor, this is for discussion maybe, but I'm not super in favor of doing a whole lot with it. Strengthening trails or, placing benches, that sort of thing. But, sorry, I got carried away with my comments. I'll save them for discussion.
I walked, as I said, there yesterday, and I didn't bring my map with me, and so I was walking all over the HOA. I parked on the east side there on that curved street because I didn't feel I should be parking on 14th Street right in there. It just felt so narrow. So I was just looking at my phone for the park, which does not actually have the outlines. It has a little sign for the park. And I was looking for markings along the private properties, and I saw a few houses with some stakes that weren't really marked very well. So it's not, I think the general public would not have no idea where the park begins and ends.
I agree. I went over there, and for the life of me, I couldn't figure out how to get in the park. and it doesn't come up on Google, by the way. So
It doesn't, does it?
No, and so I was like, how do you even get? I know I've seen the sign for the park, but then I couldn't figure out how to get in the park.
Some maps show the
Yeah.
Which raised a lot of concerns for us initially when the
Sure.
sign went in. And we had asked for some kind of sign to be put at the entrance. You can see
Yeah.
that little circle there, I guess kind of on the east side, northeast side. Just to say, here's the park and here's a little map of the park.
Yeah.
So that people would understand the boundary. We have purchased no trespassing signs and we have gotten permission from the land trust to put up a limited number of signs. But we haven't seen a lot of visitors there, and aesthetically, it's not that great, I don't think, to have signs on the corner and things like that. So we're just waiting to see, if it becomes a nuisance, then we still, but we would have liked a sign that kind of directed things. And we thought actually it'd be very nice to have something which, we were even willing to entertain doing something like a QR code on the sign or a little sign where we could put some history, online that people could understand what a pollinator garden was and what this was made a pollinator garden, something like that. But those are just ideas.
I guess, Adam, to the question, future changes, that my take on this is, I think I would prefer it to legally be either changed to HOA owned or vice versa. The HOA property would somehow become city property, so this could, any further development, I think, is gonna incur headaches for people on the size of this, especially on the size of this lot, like I said, that, so that's my take. Whether we bequeath it to the HOA with some financial or something, I don't know, but.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same question. Do you know, does the city have a policy for, land disposition?
So in records that I know, I don't know if we've ever sold property back as far as parkland, sold it back to HOAs in lieu of funds or anything like that. So not that I'm aware of.
Okay,
Unless
thanks.
Sophia knows.
This might be a good question for the city attorney. If the development used that land to satisfy their park dedication requirements, I don't know if there's any requirement that stay at park.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, to that point, in general, I guess it's, the development isn't huge to start with, so it's not a big parcel, but I think that speaks to that issue of going forward, these smaller 2.7 acre lots and so forth don't do us too much good.
And that's been a concern that city council has voiced
Yeah.
as well. I'm not
Yeah.
necessarily sure where I stand, but
Yeah.
it's out there.
So does anybody else have recommendations for future changes?
No, but I would just make it clear, at least from my point of view, just because we had comments and questions and these things doesn't mean that we don't encourage the HOA to keep talking to the city. You can talk to Adam anytime with proposals or with anything else. So don't, because we're just asking questions, at least for me, I don't know how everybody else feels. It's a good, I'm in favor of the pollinators and I'm in favor of maintaining prairie lands. I think it's just going to be trying to work this out together. That's all I got.
Not a lot to provide.
No, that's, I know that's one of the questions we brought up in the past is just, again, the small acre parks and
It's good to check.
their usefulness and
to
what
talk.
they can add to our overall purpose.
Next agenda item is communications. Do you have communications for us?
So today, city staff did remove the pickleball and tennis nets with a proposal of rain coming tonight, as well as the cold weather the rest of the week. Again, as noted, the porta potties have been removed from a majority of our parks besides our normal winter parks. With that, staff has continued to do some tree and brush removal in our parks. as well as emerald ash borer removal too, so going forward.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have any communications?
I do not.
Okay. Communications from commissioners?
Have there been any applications for our lone spot, or open spot?
Not that I know, I'm aware of.
Keep recruiting. Well, if there are no further communications, we could take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The meeting is adjourned.